Beth Gibbons and Rustin Mann are English. Beth Gibbons is the singer and lyricist for the band Portishead, and she's done some solo work and collaborations. Rustin Mann is the stage name of Paul Webb, who was the bassist for a band called Talk Talk. They got together for this one album, although Beth has worked with Rustin Mann on some of his other projects. Hi, my name's Dan. So my process for doing these reviews usually is that I'll listen to the albums twice, sometimes more than that, sometimes only once, sometimes one and a bit. But my general aim is to go for 2 listens. And usually I'll listen once and then read some stuff about the album and the act, and then I'll listen again. So I've got one listen out of context if I don't know a lot about them, and one listen in context when I've got some more information. I also try and listen often in different settings, so in different, with different equipment. I've got a fair few things that I use. So for this album, I hadn't known who these people were before I had the first listen. And I listened on headphones on the first listen. And the second time I did know, and I listened using my laptop speakers. Okay, this becomes important later. So on my first listen, I hadn't clocked that Beth is the singer for Portishead. So I know a couple of the Portishead albums fairly well, and if I'd thought about it and that click had happened, I would have gone, oh yes, that's that woman. I hadn't realised that her name was Beth Gibbons, so that hadn't gone click. She's got a great voice, I have to say. She sounds like all sorts of other people. She's very versatile. At times she sounded like Kate Bush or Tori Amos, but also she's very good at the quiet singing. She's got a slight out of control feel at times, but it is in a good way. It's not that she's losing control and it's sounding rubbish. It's that it's slightly unfettered, which suits the album really well, because it's an album of quietness and intimacy, I would say. I've had a few albums that are like this, and I tend to like them. It's got a really acoustic feel, despite the fact that there's some studio trickery going on here. There's some lo-fi kind of ideas in the recording that are similar to the way that Portishead was recorded at times. There's actually a lot of musicians involved when you look at the list. Most of them are playing acoustic instruments of various kinds. There's not a lot of drums, and when there are, they're not huge in the field because it's not really a rocky album. It's a very much a quiet afternoon kind of album. Some of the people involved were members of the band Talk Talk and of Portishead, so they've drawn on their friends there to help them out. My favourite track is a track called Drake, which is in 5/4. It's near the end of the album. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. It reminds me quite a lot of a track by George Michael, which is called Cowboys and Angels. I did go and have a quick listen to that to check that that's the right one. And it wasn't as similar as I kind of had in my head, but it's got a similar kind of feel to it. So I really liked it as an album. It's one of these gentle kind of acoustic. I hesitate to call it folk because in England folk often means something quite different from this sort of thing, but it's very acoustic. I liked it more on the headphones than on the laptop speakers. So I think there is a slight issue with it here in that it does sound a lot better with the warmth of the bass coming through, because it's very warm. It's a beautifully recorded bass. Whereas on the laptop speakers, you could hear the flaws more. And it's the kind of album where there are flaws and where they've left them in deliberately because it makes it feel human. But that's counteracted most of the time with the warmth of the recording, and less so if you've got a bit of a tinny system, I think. So I felt like the flaws were kind of jumping out a little bit more on the laptop speakers. But overall, I did really like this album. Your opportunity to tell me what you think of this album is right here, right now, because there's a comments box down before. I'm kind of fluffing this out, but yeah, tell me what you think of this album in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. That's it from me for now.
Turning up, she caught his eye. For all he knows, he cannot see. Pleasure smolder inside, cover seasons that fell from view.